All right, in the last lesson, we went ahead and set up our spaceship environment here. Let's go ahead and create our spaceship. What I like to do is, do you see the axis here, the z-axis pointing forward? I like to treat that as my front, or the area, the direction I plan to point my character in. What we're going to be using to make our spaceship is that ProBuilder asset that we installed in the last tutorial. So let's go to Tools, ProBuilder, and then ProBuilder window to open up the ProBuilder window options here. Now, a spaceship or character, what have you, is generally made up of multiple shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on New Shape here. And for Cube, I'm going to make the body of my ship out of this Cube option here. Now, if you don't see these options down here, you can just expand this arrow. And I'm just going to left click. I'm actually going to hold Alt and left click a little bit, just rotate my camera down a little bit, just so I could see a little bit better the direction and the scale of my spaceship as I drag this out. So notice as I release my left mouse button, I can adjust the height of that. So with another click, you can see now I have the body of my spaceship. Now, if you're not happy with it, you can hit W to select your move tool and then press delete. And then you can go back in and you can just re-drag it out. It's good to practice. Like say you want a fatter one or thinner one. You could also hit the R key and play with expanding it. There's also these other options here, which we'll get into later, where you can select a face, and by pressing W, you can move these elements around. For now, if you get something that looks somewhat like this, you know, just sort of a box, feel free to adjust it as much as you want. And again, this is just face mode, moving it forward and back. This is pretty good. Let's go back to object mode by clicking this first option here. And what I want to do is create the wing. So I'm going to go to New Shape here, and I'm just going to left click and just drag out another cube. Now let's give ourselves a little bit more room. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. Let's do this one more time. So something like this. And then I'm going to line up that blue arrow to the center here and sort of just move this in place. So this will represent our wings. Very basic. Now for the back, I kind of want to expand it out a little bit. So I'm going to go to the second option here, which is my vertex, and I'm going to rotate. So I'm looking at all four of these vertices, and wherever these two edges meet, a vertex is created. So I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to press R for my scale tool and scale this up. I'm just playing a little bit with the scale, and that looks pretty cool. And back here, we'll put some rockets, and later maybe we'll hook up some particle effects. All right, let's go back to object mode. And with the center hull still selected, let's create a wing up here. Now, what's pretty cool about ProBuilder is if I go to New Shape, I have Cube selected. What you'll notice is the cursor will create the shape on top of the surface that you're modeling from. So right there, we can go ahead and create like a fin. So I'm going to hit R, scale that in a little bit. Looks pretty good. And last, let's go ahead and create our maybe 3 different cylindrical areas that will shoot fire out of the back of our ship. So I'm going to go to New Shape here and select Cylinder this time. And actually, you know what we'll do is notice that there's another option here where we can, there is the cylinder, and then we can create essentially an empty cylinder or a pipe. And so I'm going to left click and drag out here, just the base of the first part of the pipe. And then I'm going to release my mouse and just pull out like that. Here's one pipe. And let's go ahead and select vertex here. Do the same thing we did before. Select all of these verts and then hit R and scale them up. So it gives us that kind of cool airline look. All right, so a trick is let's go back to object mode once we're done with this. Let's press Control D and then press Control D again and just place this down here. So we have our 3 little sort of exhaust areas where the flames are going to come out of. Now notice that these are all separate pieces. What I want to do is left click and drag a marquee. Now this only works if you're in object mode so that it selects all of those pieces. And then let's go ahead and merge all of these objects together by clicking Merge Object. And then notice that our transforms are all over the place, and we want to keep this pretty clean because we're going to be using units to program how this thing moves. So what I'd like to do is freeze transformations. And now if I program it so that when I hit W, it moves 5 units on the Z-axis, you can see I can do that starting from the 0 position, and 0 being wherever this spaceship is in space. The other thing I want to do is after the transforms have been frozen, I want to center the pivot to the object and then hit freeze transform again, just so I know that this pivot point is in the center. Let's name this spaceship. And just to be clear, the way I renamed it is I selected the ship, and then in the inspector here, I named it spaceship. Now in the assets folder, I'm going to right click, go up to create here, and then select folder, and I'm going to name this prefabs. And if you remember from the previous tutorial, a prefab is a way of saving off what you have in the scene so that it can be reused across multiple scenes. And with the spaceship object, anything that we have as a prefab, so say we had a script or some physics or whatever, it'll update it or save it as when we drag it into this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my spaceship here and just drop it in this prefabs folder. And you can see within it, we have our spaceship here. Now in the next video, we're going to take a look at how we can code the movement of this spaceship.